Welcome, everybody, to The Shift. I'm Marnie Robbins, here with my always fabulous co-host, Mindy Honkoop. And today we're talking about something that almost everyone's lived through, and a few people would say works well. Like, very few people say works well. And that's finding a job, and on the other side of the table, finding the right person for one. Not the swipe right, keyword matching version of that problem. One that you're really optimizing your resume to be seen by an AI bot or something along those lines. Or on the other side, you're a company that's sifting through 5,000 applicants to find not the right person on the other side. And that's the real problem underneath it. If filtering gets faster, matching didn't necessarily get better. So that's exactly the problem that we're talking about when today's guest has built a company around. Robert Folds is the founder of CareerNav, a career dating platform built to help job seekers and organizations find the right fit. He's a problem solver at heart who loves finding connections between science, technology, and human behavior to make life and work better for people. He's building products, improving processes, or mentoring teams. Robert is driven by the passion for helping people unlock their potential and navigate complex challenges with confidence. He holds a PhD in applied mathematics from the University of Minnesota and spent years in strategy and workforce well-being at Aon before starting CareerNav. Robert, welcome to The Shift. And I'd love to start there. How does someone go from studying fractures and gels to building a company that matches people to careers? Like, what's the through line there?
That's a good question. And thank you, first of all, for having me here. It's such a pleasure. It's about problem solving. So I got into that topic of my PhD by taking a course on modeling because I was interested how to use math to describe materials, and I got really fascinated by the problem. So I engaged in that area. I was fortunate enough to get into the program and study it. And as I got out, I still had that curiosity about creating something new, doing interdisciplinary work, and then also working with people. I know sometimes math is you with your pencil and your paper at a desk, but there is a lot of interaction too, whether it's through teaching or mentoring or going to conferences, presenting talks, posters. So yeah, that's what got me to where I am today. And some of it has been really helpful that I didn't think of at the time, like getting used to solving really hard problems and running into the wall enough, but knowing that if you knock your head against the wall enough times that the wall will eventually crumble. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Marnie.
No, yeah. And what's really interesting is we've actually, I think some of our favorite people to talk to are the people who have that problem solving innate curiosity that get into it. And that's how they get into the people side, because humans are really interesting. So using that data and the curiosity and problem solving piece and applying that to very human problems and transitions is, I think, a more natural progression than what a lot of people would normally think as far as that type of transition. What gave you, to your most recent hypothesis around career matching, like people finding roles and people looking for others with roles? Like, was there an aha moment that gave you your current hypothesis of where we are in the world of work?
I guess a few. There was one big aha moment, and then there were a few that led up to it. I guess speaking to what led up to it, I was doing a lot of data analysis for large organizations on their workforce, understanding where there are opportunities, both positive and negative, for employers to take action on. And what that means is understanding how productivity is interconnected with the health and well-being of individuals within an organization, how that connects to demographics. And those were large data sets that I had and colleagues of mine had to extract information from and provide actionable insights. So I got really fascinated about working with large data sets and seeing aspects that one would not have thought about without diving through that. Then I got also really fascinated by seeing how processes are sometimes inefficient, but are done over and over and over again. And then being able to automate them. And then understanding that process too, that sometimes there is resistance to that automation, how to get over that, how to make it efficient in taking the steps. It's not just, oh, I want to automate it. Here's the new product, but working with the people who are going to use it and what they wish from that experience. So this has all built up that underlying skill set that was needed for what I'm doing now. The big aha moment came when I was looking for a shift myself, and I was going out there to see what opportunities there might be on the job market. And I found that the platforms out there overwhelmingly didn't work for me, but I didn't understand why. And now I do. The big part, as you alluded to before, is the matching of resumes and keywords to the job descriptions, and how it's really overwhelming for both sides. And I had the luck of talking to someone, a recruiter connection of mine, who recommended taking a different approach and finding organizations that appeal to me first, and then targeting those and targeting not just with job applications, but with networking. And I found that hugely helpful. But what I also realized is there isn't anything out there today to do that. And that was over a year ago, close to 2 years ago. And there still isn't, except for what I've been building.
Well, hey, good on you for rebuilding.
There's like so many things in there that I think are so, first of all, curiosity and play in the heart of uncertainty. I love how I almost imagine this wall that you're speaking to. You know, most people, when I hear them, I kept hitting my head against a wall. But when you speak about it, it doesn't feel like it's like a physical wall. It's like it's maybe it may feel like it is, but it actually isn't. And it's about remaining in possibility and remaining, hey, there's this wall here, but I'm going to just continue to be curious and let's have a conversation wall. Like, there's got to be some level of possibility here versus just seeing it as a problem that couldn't be fixed and walking away, which I think is, often a lost art. I think the friction is often a signal that people say, hey, I'm walking away. But instead, you get excited about it, the resistance as a signal, and not seeing resistance as bad, but just as an opportunity to think about this in a different way. Like, even like how you're like, I never thought about dating, like almost like taking a dating approach to an organization and thinking about, what would be my ideal mate, like my ideal like organization, and then best, figure out how they can get to know me. How do I get that first date? I just think that's really fascinating. When you get into the moment where you see friction and it feels like you keep getting the same friction, how do you remain in possibility mindset, Robert?
That's a good question. I think that there are two aspects of it. One is to assess, is it really possible? Yes or no? And that, I guess, and then if it's possible, is it worthwhile keep trying, or is it worthwhile keep pivoting? It also helps to have gone through it many, many times with different scenarios and know that there is something on the other side. If you try, if you pivot, having a lot of conversations, like talking with people about either the problem I'm facing or just talking and listening to different mindsets. And that makes my head work differently too. So just sitting there and trying to do it all over and over again doesn't usually help. It helps to sometimes step away, maybe take a few days break from it, and then return with a new mindset. Yeah, and then just know when to stop and try something else. Like if it's not worth the payoff for a specific task, like I'm not talking about the overall, but the small tasks that
Yeah.
I'm facing, then try something else, because there are other problems to be solved in the business or in life, and then prioritizing accordingly. And I think it
That's
also helps having success moments. So maybe doing something in between that is a positive reinforcement of, yeah, I can do this. And then what I found strangely interesting too is looking back at what you have done gives you a high level view. And what I mean by that, when I write quarterly summaries about my business, I look back, what did I do in the last 3 months? And I realize that was actually quite a bit, even though as I go through it, there might be struggles. I don't see the big picture. And that gives some motivation too of, hey, if you stick to it, you're able to achieve it.
So I want to dig in a little more too into the curiosity piece, so before we even hit record today, you and I started talking about just the interesting data that you're seeing and the value of that data. And so for me as a listener and someone who's out there is like, I'm really curious as far as like what you're seeing, how are people actually looking for work today? How are organizations actually posting and reviewing resumes? Do you mind providing maybe a little bit of a TLDR, so to speak, on like what you're seeing out there in that respect?
Yeah, I guess the biggest way for people to look for work is to go on what I would call a job board. And usually the process is you click on apply, you submit your resume, and then you wait. Ideally, you do something more, and that something more is get to know that company, get to know people who work there, and ideally also before you apply so that you have a little bit more of a warmer transition. And then that gives you a feel, do I really want to work there? But it also gives them a feel about you so that they feel comfortable enough recommending you once you have applied. But really, it always starts with that job board experience and your resume, which contains your experience, your credentials, your skill, your skills.
Mhm.
And then these keywords are then with some black box model where there's something behind it matched to keywords within the job description of what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, how do organizations look for talent? Overwhelmingly, when they post their job, they have what's so-called application tracking systems. And then you either wait for applicants to come to you, or some organizations go out there and look for applicants more directly, either through platforms like LinkedIn Recruiters, or they hire an external recruiting agency to do this for them, but they'll likely go with that same approach, plus obviously the candidate pools
Yeah.
that they have.
And a lot more costly at that point.
A
Yeah.
lot more costly. Yeah, a lot more
Yeah.
costly.
It
Um,
and what's broken in you're solving a problem that no one else is solving. Like what's the shift? Like what the data that you've been seeing, like why is this so broken? Like what needs to shift?
I would say a few things are that I would consider needing a shift. One is that people today look for not just a job, but for purpose. So it's not just a paycheck. Obviously, that's a big part because you need money to survive. You need potentially insurance that you get through your employer. True. But you also want to have that purpose. And that's very true when we talk about the next generation coming into the workforce. And we saw that to some extent during the pandemic,
Right.
that there was maybe one of the first times when the job seekers had a better hand versus the employer. They could ask more, and there was a huge shift in employment, whether it was going remote or negotiating better deals or just finding and getting jobs that you couldn't because there was a big demand for talent, but not enough supply. So those who applied had more leverage. And that was, I guess, a big first indicator that there is a shift going on within the workforce. And then I think that there's another aspect that I came to realize only as I was working through my own business is that the way we measure outcomes within a workplace setting is by looking at, well, obviously the financial performance, how good is the company doing, but what drives that? And usually it's more engaged employees, more productive employees, employees who have been around, who you retain to be there. And in order to get good metrics on these criteria or good scores, you need to have the right people. And that you won't necessarily get by just matching keywords on a resume to a job description of, oh yeah, you need good skills in PowerPoint or in Excel, or you need to be a good communicator. Yes, obviously you do, but you also need to have that human element. And I guess that goes back to what you mentioned, Mindy, of the parallels to dating. You spend so much time at work of your life. If you only work 40 hours a week, that's still almost half of your waking week, like the part that you're awake. And that's probably more than what you spend with your partner or your kids or your family. So you want to have a really good fit because that's what's going to lead to job satisfaction, to staying there, to being more creative at work, to being then more productive. And then that's what's going to help the business side thrive.
You're at a really interesting juxtaposition too of kind of combining the matching of keywords and whatnot, but it's beyond that, right? And what I'm hearing you say is it's still very important to the incoming workforce and, well, frankly, to most of the workforce to find purpose, meaning, and a good fit for what they do because they spend so much of their time in the work that they do and around the people, whether it's virtually or in person, that they're working with. But what's interesting is because of the advent of more accessible AI and large language models, the way that we've been filtering data and operating has become less and less humanized, right? So there's less of that purpose on the employer end. And we always talk about the social contract of work is really shifting right now. I'm just curious your take on what you're seeing on the employer side, because with the candidates, you're saying, hey, you need to do something a little extra. And then from the employer side, you have this kind of dehumanization of the way that we're operating happening right now. And any hot takes or anything along those lines from the employer side to say this is how you're going to find those people who are driving, as you so eloquently put it, driving outcomes, through people and motivation.
So yes, there are a few aspects. One is obviously through what you mentioned, this trend of AI and the ease of, even through bots, of just getting applications in, you start overflowing the system and getting too many applicants in for given positions. So that then it becomes even harder to distill who do I select to be my interviewee? Because that's what it all comes down to. I think that skills still matter a lot because you need to be able to do the job. But it's about who do you get to that first interview when you interact with the person, and then to the second interview. Because those take a lot of times, a lot of coordination, a lot of efforts to get through an interview cycle. So you want to get the right person there to begin with, not just in terms of skill set, but in terms of fit. And that's I think a bigger and bigger struggle. And then there is an other aspect to this. It's very easy for large organizations to get the right talent in many ways. They have brand recognition. So everyone knows Amazon. Everyone knows Microsoft. They have the luxury of being able to easily get in front of people and get more applicants for the job than they ever needed. So they can be a lot more pickier, a lot more efficient in getting the right candidates. They probably also get a lot more referrals because of that. But these companies only make up a fraction of all the organizations. So then you have small and mid-sized businesses who still struggle getting the right talent because they don't have the brand visibility. And people might skip over a job application because they might say, oh yeah, it popped up, but I don't know anything about them. I also don't have the time to research them, to figure out who they are, even on paper, yet alone get to meet people at that organization, do the networking, do the outreaches. So the job seekers can't be efficient in that. And then these employers, small to mid-sized businesses, they don't have the capacity nor the visibility necessarily to get in front. So that's a big struggle, but they make up the vast majority of the businesses in our country. It's not the Microsofts, it's not the Amazons, it's your local community startups, small, mid-sized businesses.
And I'm sensing in that too is like, because you also said earlier, these processes that we're using that are no longer working, I like how you kind of caveated these ATSs that supposedly work based on these old processes. And like what the need is for the employers to be able to find that right match with the skills, but also how do we know who the human element of this person to see if this is a good match for us? And how do you get that from a piece of paper?
It's hard.
Right.
So I would say at the end of the day, you can only get as close as you can. You will have to meet in person or virtually. So you'll have to meet the person. There's probably nothing that can replace that interaction. You will have to meet. But then it's about who do you get into that pipeline of meeting? There are already some nice tools out there that measure your personality, that are interactive, gamified ways of seeing who you are as a person. But again, those you can't offer to everyone who applies because you usually have to pay a fee per usage. And if you made it available to all your applicants, then you would go broke as a company. So then how do you make it possible that you have people who apply where you just have that data, just have the words to get them into your funnel, so to say, because at the end of the funnel, you'll have one candidate who you hire for one opening, but you start out with a much bigger funnel, dozens or hundreds of people who apply, all the way to maybe 10 you invite to an initial interview, or 20 you invite to an assessment, 10 to an interview, and then 5 to the second round, and so on. So how do you make the people who enter at the beginning of the funnel the best ones? You try to get new pieces of data about them that they say that you can use. So what are their values? How do they work? What do they prefer in the workplace and from the work environment? And what I've found too is there is a bigger incentive to be more honest on those data pieces, because you actually want to be with people that align with you, and you want to be in a workplace that fits you better.
Yeah.
And versus you're more inclined to overstate certain facts in your resume because you want to get matched to those keywords. But then if you look more of these human elements, there is no incentive to overstate, or I would even say misstate, because then you don't get matched to that workplace that best aligns with you. So there's a positive reinforcement of being who you are.
And how much that is that missing? Because what you're saying is like, okay, this paper and the process and the technology is not capturing the human. It's just capturing the data elements of what this person can or cannot do, or what they've done, not who they are.
Correct.
And so how do they get the chance to say who I am within the current process? There isn't. There really isn't. Cover letters, maybe. And some companies do really read cover letters. And, if people take the time to write a cover letter, there is some aspect, if written well, of who they are. But I often find that's rare. These systems often, because there is such large volume of people, we're first starting with not the who, we're starting with just what can or can they not do, and what has their experience been. Just these like data outputs, these activities, minus the human. And so how do we then marry that where we add the human in?
Yeah, I'll make a short detour on that.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned cover letters, and I think that those are a really good way of getting your personality across as a job candidate. The difficulty is you can't write even tens of cover letters for every job you apply, because then you lose that. If you do that, then they won't be personal enough for that specific role. So as a job seeker, there is a piece missing of which ones should I be writing cover letters to, which are the ones where I should truly invest my time in. And that's missing because people don't have a ranked list of organizations who they want to go after based on who they are.
Yeah.
And then to your question of, it's about getting data on both sides. So getting data about the employers and who they are beyond just the name, their logo, and the industry that they are. Like, who is that employer, so that you can make them searchable beyond the job descriptions. And then getting similar data about the job seekers, about the individuals, that you can then somehow connect one-to-one. And to go with a very easy example that's not that, but that illustrates the purpose, like a sector. Like, if I want to work in the nonprofit area for humanitarian help, great. An organization knows who is in that space, that's their sector and that's their field, and the job seeker knows that too. And let's apply this same principle to other aspects like work-life balance. Apply it to how you operate within the company in terms of values, not just what the company says on their website, but what do they truly mean and what do people say about them, and use that information, and then use the information from the job seeker, what values they like, and connect those in an ideally one-to-one setting, similar to the sector example. So it's about collecting and creating new data about organizations that you can match between an employer and a job seeker, other than the keywords that we're used to.
And that reminds me of, even from a marketing standpoint, because a lot of what we talk about, especially when we're talking about, recruitment and talent acquisition and all of that, is similar to a sales funnel. From a company, you want a healthy top of funnel, right? You want a healthy pool of candidates, and you want the right pool of candidates. From the candidate experience, it's what I'm hearing is you almost through collecting the right data and kind of understanding what's important to you, like looking internally first, understanding what's important to you, purpose, values, all of that, then being able to apply that and your energy to the right companies, you're immediately improving the surface area of your luck. And your call application to call ratio is just naturally going to improve. And that to me makes absolute sense. But then you even go into you go further into the journey, right? If we go further from the candidate journey into the employee journey, and we talk about well-being and engagement and performance, and I'm just curious from that candidate to employee journey, what is that ROI on making sure that you have that really good match beyond the job description that's going to improve either the bottom line of the company, basically, ensuring that there's a velocity to impact and engagement?
It really starts with getting that surface area optimized as you onboard people. And I guess what I would mention here is there is no right or wrong answer. Every organization has a set of people already there, and with usually some underlying commonality. You can see that when you go to work for different organizations and talk with people, that there are some trends. And those are really driven by that organizational culture.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's influenced when the company is smaller by the founder or the founding team. As it grows, it cascades down from management and whatever they set out and whatever they inspire the workforce. So getting people in who have a similar mindset is very important. Sometimes it's about the workplace balance. Sometimes it's about the product that you're working on. Sometimes it's the people you're working with. Sometimes it's about personal growth or individual development within the company that drives people to be there and stay there. And having that alignment, so when you come in, you already fit to the mindset that this abstract concept of organization has, because it is a set of people, but it's more. So being aligned with that helps you be on a similar, I guess, wavelength as everyone else in the organization, have a similar purpose. And that makes you be more part of that team and makes you, even if not every day, but most days, be happy about showing up, whether you can work on a really cool innovation project or get to see certain colleagues in the lunch break area where you eat with them because you really enjoy spending time with them. Or if it's just about the paycheck, and that's okay too. And you get paid a lot of money to do a specific type of work, but that's why you're there and that's why everyone else is there. I would say that's good, because then you have some alignment and you know why you're there, and your number one reason for being there is hopefully the same across.
Yeah.
And that will get you to stay and not feel that something's not right.
Right. Yeah,
So
it's at that level of connectedness, right? This connectedness of I know who I am, which that's a great first question. Do I know who I am and what I value, so that I then can find something and I understand when I enter into an aligned, connected value group, like and who this group of people are together. We always have in organizations and in recruitment had this age-old conversation of culture fit versus culture and or adding to the culture. And I think there's an element of connectedness, if we want to use fit as connectedness, versus, so taking fit in the past often was like, oh, people are just hiring more of them. Right.
Mhm.
And so how do we make sure we have diversity of thought, diversity of skill, diversity of background? But I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think we're talking about this deeper sense of this is just true always to who I am, where it's like value versus beliefs. And it's like that core value alignment and connectedness needs to be there, it needs to fit. But the individual can bring their own wealth of background and beliefs because we all were raised differently. We all like came from unique backgrounds. And so, we can hire into someone that has unique, different experiences than the other part of the group to round out that level of skill set and what they're bringing to the organization. But the place that the connectedness at the depth of what we value, which informs our behavior and how we make decisions, is so important. I don't know if there's a question in there, but it's all kind of resonating with me because I have so many people like, I hate hearing about culture fit. I hate hearing about culture fit, but what if we reframe culture fit as value rooted who we are fit?
And what I'm hearing is you just created a new term that I'm actually going to use quite a bit.
What?
Culture connectedness.
Oh,
and that, that's what it is. I'm resonating with your culture. And to Robert's point is, what are the outcomes that we want from this relationship? Is it pay? Is it, friendship? What type of workforce? Is that cultural connectedness that we're looking for? Do they have the same mindset? And so I'm curious, Robert, what bells come up for you when you think of that culture connectedness and do you see a lot of that? Or
I see something, as Mindy was phrasing this so eloquently, one thing that came to my mind is sports and sports teams and how much it matters there too. You see in the performance of a team, it's not how great the individual players necessarily are, it's how the team works. And we saw that, for instance, in the World Cup. It's not the teams that had the biggest stars that won, it's the team that played the best throughout the tournament. And even to go more extreme, there was one of the commentators for the World Cup here in the US. He was a player, an outstanding player, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He played for many different teams, but there was one where he played for where he didn't fit in. And even though he was the greatest player, and to translate that to workplace, had the best skill sets, the best resumes, he just didn't fit in. And that was bad for him and bad for the team. And that's not, you want to be there for the same reason. And that's, to continue with that sports analogy, to be successful and to win games or to win competitions, you want to show up as a team being connected around same values, same purpose, something that keeps you together, that keeps you working together for the shared goal. And replicating that approach is it's not just needed, it's proven that it works. We know it works, but we just need to create that front end for recruiting.
So along those lines, that connectedness piece too, one of the things that comes to mind is employee referral programs. Good, bad, and ugly with those things, that I've seen on, but what is your take on the role of employee referral programs in the recruitment process?
What I've heard from recruiters overwhelmingly that I've talked to is, if they get a referral, that person will end up in the interview pile. They might not get the job because you test that person, but they will get there. So we all have to be cognizant of that this is the fact. And it somewhat makes sense if someone says, oh, I know this person and I'm working here and I'm willing to work with them and I'm putting their resume forward. That means that gives you a level of trust of that introduction. I think it's really important to make that system work for you, so that for both sides, for you as a job candidate to be able to get that referral, which means being able to use your limited time efficiently to get to network with the right people who will then refer you. And then on the other side, for people working at a given organization, seeing even cold calls come in that don't feel as cold, so that you can say, yeah, I'll take that 20-minute call, or I'll take that 30-minute coffee with you and get to know you, because your outreach was so personal to me that it would be interesting for me to talk with you and see why you reached out, and then making this employee referral system be really positive and extracting out of it what it was meant to do in the first place, which was a warm referral based on, yeah, someone here at the company thinks you're a good fit because they got along with you. So hopefully you are indeed, because we hired that person who is here. We agreed with them. Hopefully that person will then recommend another great candidate just like them.
The culture would have to be really great for these employee referrals to work really well. For someone as an employee, you're going to be great here. Like, you're my friend, and it's not just about you can do the job, but this culture, I know it. I'm in it every day, and I'm connected to it. So now I'm going to be able to find others and identify that will connect to it. I don't know if we necessarily in many organizations, I think individuals don't feel connected anymore to the organization, or have lost a sense of, we used to feel connected, but I don't anymore, which I think may also be another kind of factor into why employee referral programs are so difficult and to their success.
Yeah. If you as an employee don't feel connected to your organization, you probably don't want someone in the same shoes. And then you end up sometimes with scenarios where you incentivize employees to do the referrals. And maybe that's good for the referral program itself, but it's not helping the cause, because now you're introducing that huge financial incentive of, I'll be getting thousands of dollars to make that referral. Do I really think someone should be hired here? Maybe not, but I'll take the couple $1,000s.
Right.
Yes.
And
because then and it's also not, it could be tied to the outcome of, we need talent, we got this person in here, but it's missing then the human element, or then we're losing sight. Something has become more priority versus finding the good human element on either side. It's now my outcome for me personally is a check, not the best outcome for the business necessarily, or this individual. It's just, I want the money.
And I think one point that you indirectly hit on here is, or I guess directly too, as organizations lose their culture, that's important too. And there are a lot of really cool businesses out there who help with building culture, because there are a lot of companies that don't have it, or they think they have it, and then they try to propagate their culture buzzwords downwards, and that's not working. You have to be organic about who you are, which starts with understanding who you are, what you're looking for. There are many organizations that struggle with culture who haven't gotten even to that very, very first step. And then you need to, once you know who you are, be organically and genuinely direct about it with your coworkers, and spreading that, and not making it like a monthly or quarterly town hall that feels very artificial, but make it feel real. And then it goes about getting the people there who align with that type of thinking. And it's much easier to build it from the start. That's why I mentioned the founder experience. Like, if you are the founder and as you build out the company, you also build out a company culture, because you hire people you want to be working with. And ideally, those individuals will then again hire people who are similar, and so on. And this is more of an organic setup. And as long as the founder is involved and is passionate about the business, that culture gets propagated throughout. Not always, but usually. And then it becomes a bigger issue when there isn't the founder involved anymore. Then it's about the leadership team, and they need to feel some ownership too. It shouldn't just be for the paycheck. It should be for, do I care about this business as if it was my own? And no stock reward program will create that. That has come from the inside, a non-monetary incentive to do so, and then build a cohesive culture.
You wrapped it up so nicely, Robert. I know we're getting close on time, but I think that's such a powerful insight in that, look, cultures exist, whether we frame them up or not. They're going to exist anytime you have a group of individuals working together. So every person that you add into that culture is adjusting that culture just a tiny little bit. So to your point, was very founder-centric to more leadership-centric as you grow and scale. But the prime importance of understanding those people that you're bringing in and getting that culture connectedness is paramount, more so today than any other day. But before we wrap up, I want to make sure that is there one thing that you wish more people were talking honestly about, or that there's something unresolved when we think about the future of work that we should be thinking about today that's top of mind for you?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a big one. I think what I perceive, and this is more of a big picture view, talking more honestly about that journey. I remember when for my very first job application journey, I remember when I went into it, I heard people, oh yeah, it's so easy. You'll get a job right away. It will take a couple of weeks and so on. And then once I got out of it and it wasn't that experience, then the same people said, oh yeah, it wasn't so easy for me necessarily too. So being just more candid and open about the experiences, whether you're a job seeker or that is actively looking, or you're currently in a job but went through that experience, because almost all of us go through this experience at least once in our life. And then also from a recruiter perspective, being more open of what it looks like, because that will create not just empathy, but insights that will help everyone get closer to more personal success, more growth, and ideally finding the fit, as this information is really useful to have as you go through the journey, and is very enlightening.
I was just putting what I'm sensing in that is just, how do we putting human care into the process on both sides?
Yes.
Great. Well, Robert, where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you're doing, what you're building, or get even your thought leadership? Where can people best find you?
Either on LinkedIn. So that's one big platform where you can, I guess, find most people. So I'm on LinkedIn. And then the other part would be through CareerNav, careernav.io. And on the website, there is a contact form. And if you reach out, I would be more than happy to engage.
It was such a pleasure having you, Robert. Thank you so much.
So wonderful to be with both of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.